Okay, now I'm going to show you how your system operates. So here's your e-collar. This is the CHAMELEON 3. This is one of the newest ones that just came out of the market. This one is compatible with an app. It pretty much tracks the temperature of your dog. It tracks the levels that your dog is in, whether the contact points are touching the skin or not. So your e-collar here has 4 contact points. What sets CHAMELEON apart, or Martin's system apart, is that this has 4 contact points, meaning this will connect with your dog a lot faster, and you don't have to worry about this not making contact with your dog. This is definitely going to touch your dog. For this to work, the contact points, the black and the red, have to touch your dog. This is the way in which you're going to turn it on. What happens is this is magnetic. There's no button to turn this on. There's this little red stripe right here where there's a magnet here. And the way you turn that on is your strap get attached to your remote. You have a little magnet here. And what you do with the magnet is you touch that. Now you heard that? That means it's on. Okay? So once it's on, this is just telling you that there is no contact here. So if it's touching your dog, you're good. If it's not touching your dog, it's telling you it's not touching your dog. So this will last for about 30 seconds to a minute. And then once you put it on the dog, it should be making contact with your dog, and then that constant flashing will go away. You also have a little test light right here. You have the little test light. Just pretty much tells you that that your contact points are working, no issues. So if you look at your little light right here, you could probably see it flashing. Additionally, what we can do is we can test it by actually pushing one of the buttons, which is right here. The blue one is going to tell you, right? The blue one is going to activate the collar. So every time you activate the collar, this is going to come on. The test light just tells you the contact points are working. So that's what's happening here. Okay. A unit also comes with a finger kick. This is a little Bluetooth device. This whole thing has already been paired up. So your collar is attached to your remote. Your collar is attached to your remote, which is attached to the finger kick. So you got this little button right here. So without me touching the remote, I can stim the dog. Now, for this to work, it's important that this has to be within range of your finger kick. So you can't leave this at home and then just bring this out, because this has to be in range with the remote. So this has to be near you. This has to be in your pocket or hanging around your neck. But you don't want to leave this home and just take this out with you. If this is too far, if the finger kick is too far from the remote, the finger kick will not activate the e-collar. So you have to make sure that these are within range, and that's how you're going to get activation. Now, once you are done, you don't have to turn this off every time your training session is done. You don't have to turn it on right before you start training and turn it off right when you're done training. You don't have to turn it on before you go out and then turn it off when you come back home. This could be on in the morning, and you can turn it off at night, and it's perfectly fine. The battery will last you for several days that way. But when you are ready to turn it off, just simply grab that little magnet. So that sound tells you the collar is off. Now this, to turn it off, just have to push that red button right here. Now, if you forget to turn this off, not a problem. What will happen is some time will go by, and then eventually on its own, this will turn off. Your battery won't last you as long if you consistently leave it on and wait for it to turn off on its own. But if occasionally here and there you forget to turn it off, this will turn off on its own after a period of time. Now, what you also have here is you have additional contact points. Now, as you notice here, these contact points, they just screw into your unit. Just like most contact points in most e-collar units, you just unscrew these off. So this screws off just like most e-collars on the market. Now, the reason why you got extra, it's because you actually got a good deal. Normally, these come with these contact points, the flat ones. But my friend went ahead and he hooked you up and he gave you the nice contact points. But if at any point your contact points were to break, or if through a lot of wear and tear they start to twist off and you happen to lose one, because that's happened to me before where I put my e-collar on my dog and then I take one off and one of the contact points just happens to fall off occasionally, okay? Very rare, but occasionally that can happen. So if that were to happen, no problem. You just have a bunch of spares right here. When you're not using your e-collar and just happens to be laying there, my suggestion is just go ahead and clip it. This will keep it nice and secure. It'll prevent it from bending all over the place. When you put this on your dog, I would also suggest quickly locking it. This prevents it from accidentally slipping off. Okay, once you lock it. So your e-collar is also, the strap is adjustable. So the way it is right now, it's just perfect. You're going to notice it is a little bit snug. So it's not supposed to be loose. It's supposed to be snug for the contact points to touch his skin. Now, it's not too incredibly tight, but it is snug to the point where the contact points are going to touch his skin. So if at some point you notice you're putting this on and it just feels very, very tight, like you're really having to stretch it, just loosen it a little bit. You have the ability to loosen it up. You have plenty of slack here. Okay, another thing I wanted to go over is the rising stem setting on the TT4FK. So I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to press this. And you notice if I hold it, it'll rise. Okay. And if I need to press it again, it brings it right back to level 2. Now, the reason why this setting is very beneficial and it's such a great feature in Martin's system is because if your dog happens to go from a casual walk, so if suddenly the dog goes from, hey, you know, everything's pretty casual, everything's great, okay, good, I'll heal, everything's good, come back, to suddenly something becomes incredibly important to your dog that is not you, and it gets in the way of their performance, I can hold this, I can press it, hold it, and it'll go to whatever. Obviously, in this case, it went all the way to level 9, but it doesn't have to be that. A lot of times you'll notice, you'll press it, you'll hold it, and right about there, the dog goes, okay, yeah, that definitely is enough. And then the next time that you press this, the next time that you stim, it'll bring you back to whatever level you had it previously. This also works with the finger kick. So again, let's say this is in your pocket or hanging on your neck. You have this. Your dog goes from suddenly level 3 doesn't quite cut it. Now you can press it and same thing. If you hold it, okay? If you hold it, that's what will make it rise. That's what will make the stimulation more intense. Until the dog decides, until the dog tells you, hey, that level was just enough. I definitely don't need it to go past that. I got it. I understand. Obviously, this is something we're only going to use with behaviors the dog already understands, with behaviors that have been taught. Okay, again, behaviors the dog already understands. If the dog doesn't understand, if the dog is a little bit confused, or if the dog is learning something new, definitely we would not do the rising stem, because in that case, it's not that the dog is not willing to comply, it's genuinely the dog is confused. So if the dog is confused, if it's something that you're teaching that is kind of new, rising stem would not be the fair approach here. I will go to a different approach. I will go with teaching the dog, hey, let's teach you how to do this first. Then to proof it, we will go, hey, no, now I know you know how to do this. Okay, now we're going to do that. Now you have to absolutely do it. Typically, rising stem is something I'll use for a recall, because with the dog being out and about, the tolerance happens to be higher. The desire to pursue a distraction will be higher. And the option to come back to me is not as enticing when I need the dog to come back to me. So if I happen to be on, on level 3, and the dog is out and about, pretty casual setting, and suddenly a bunny jumps out and it sets my dog into high predatory mode and starts chasing that bunny, level 3, I can guarantee you will not do it, right? So now we have an environmental distraction that is very difficult to compete with. I'm going to call my dog. My dog decides, hey, you know what? I'll come back to you. Great. He's going to come back to me. He's going to get a big reward for that. If the dog decides, no, like I'm in predatory mode, are you crazy? I'm not coming back. Then this is where I could hold this, put it on a rising stem. This will increase the level of the e-collar until, the dog gets to a certain level that the dog goes, oh my God, yep, I'm going to come back. I understand what the recall is because he's been taught that. Okay. Now I'm definitely going to come back. That is definitely more important to me right now, to come back to you. That's why the rising stem, it's such a good setting. It's a good maintenance setting too. Now, the way that we have this, we have it locked already in rising stem. Okay. If I wanted to unlock it, if I wanted to put it on just continuous mode, I would just press the power button and the blue button, and it flashes real quick. Now what will happen is, now it's on continuous mode. So if I hold it, it will not rise. Okay, so this is not on rising stem anymore. It's the same thing with the Bluetooth. This is just an extension of the remote. So this is on continuous setting. And if I want to go higher, I'm gonna manually go higher, and I'm gonna stem on level 6, right, or level 5 or 4, and I'm just gonna do that. I don't want the rising stem. If that's something you want to do, no problem. Or if you decide, okay, I had enough of the continuous setting, I want to go back to rising, then we do the same thing. Press the power button and the blue button at the same time. Okay, so press the power and then the blue. We're going to hold it until it flashes and it starts rising. So power button, blue button, holding it together. Now it's rising. Okay, now it's on rising stem. So now it's on rising stem. Same thing with the finger kick, because the finger kick is just an extension of the remote. So now we're back on rising stem. Okay, additionally, when you turn it off, I know this part might seem a little bit trivial, a little bit too remedial, but let's go over it anyway. To turn it on, I've seen people make this mistake where people will turn it on, but they're holding it. You do not need to hold this, okay? You just turn it on. Okay, to turn it on, just grab the power button, turn it on, and you're good to go. You don't need to hold it, because as you can see, when I hold it, I now changed the settings, right? Now, by holding it, I just put it on tone. So, put it on tone and vibrate, and I did that by accidentally just pressing and holding. You do not need to hold it, you just turn it on and off. Obviously, if you accidentally did this and your screen is displaying a little signal, it means that you somehow accidentally changed the setting a little bit. What you're gonna do is you're just gonna push the power button, hold it, and now you're back in business, okay? So you're back on rising. So anyway, that's all I wanted to show you for now. Just basic characteristics of the e-collar of this particular unit. Okay, and real quick, I wanted to recap what we went over in the Go Home lesson. This is the app, Dogify. You can download this on your iPhone or your Android. Once you open it, make sure you push the button to pair up a collar. You have to put the magnet to the on portion of the collar so that it finishes the pairing up process. Once that's completed, the collar is ready to go. It's going to tell the battery life of the collar. It's going to tell you whether it's making contact with the skin or not, the temperature of the dog. And if you go to the settings, as I'm going to show you here in a moment, settings will help you out if you were to have, like, you know, more collars. You know, you can name the collar whatever you want. You can go into the levels. My suggestion is don't mess with the levels too much. Go ahead and play around with it. Go to each level if you want to increase the stimulation output of each level. You can have the levels go up and down individually. But I would say best practice is just to leave it alone and leave the factory setting as it is.